Z.ai just dropped a new AI model, and honestly, this one might be way more important than it looks. It's called GLM 5.3 Flash, and this isn't just another AI model trying to compete with ChatGPT. We're talking about a 320 billion parameter model with only 18 billion active parameters, a 1 million token context window, native multimodal capabilities, an MIT license, and benchmark results that put it surprisingly close to some of the biggest frontier models in the industry. And there's another detail that makes this even more interesting. GLM 5.3 Flash was previously previewed as Ox Alpha, and it was presented as running entirely on Chinese AI chips. So what exactly did Z.ai build here, and why is everyone paying attention? Let's break it down. The really crazy part, the cost. Z.ai says GLM 5.3-. Flash scores 57 on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index v 4.1.1 at just $0.045 per task, with the discounted price, roughly 10 times cheaper than the cost previously associated with this level of intelligence. And the performance is still strong. On DeepSWE, it jumps from 46.2 to 63.4. While on AutomationBench, it goes from 26.2 to 48.8, compared with GLM 5.2. Z.ai also says that on its own code bench, GLM 5.3, Flash reaches 29.0 at maximum effort, almost matching Claude Opus 4.8 at 29.5. So the real story isn't just performance, it's how much intelligence you're getting for the money. First, the architecture. GLM 5.3. Flash is a 320 BA18B model. In simple terms, the model has around 320 billion total parameters, but only around 18 billion parameters are active during inference. And that matters because activating a gigantic model every time you generate a token would be extremely expensive. Instead, GLM 5.3 Flash uses a mixture of experts approach, where the model can activate the experts it needs for a particular task. So you get the capacity of a 320 billion parameter model while only activating roughly 18 billion parameters at a time. That's the basic idea behind Flash. Frontier-level capability without frontier-level inference costs. And Z.ai isn't stopping at text. GLM 5.3. Flash is natively multimodal, meaning it can work with visual information as well as text, and it comes with a massive 1 million token context window. That makes it especially interesting for huge code bases, long documents, visual workflows, and AI agents that need to operate over long sessions. And speaking of agents, this is where the model gets really interesting. Z.ai says GLM 5.3 Flash has been rolled out to its GLM coding plan users, and the model gives users 3 times the usable quota of GLM 5.3. It can also be used through Z.code with browser use and computer use, allowing an agent to click through web pages, visually verify what it sees, and even operate desktop applications. So this isn't really being positioned as just a chatbot, it's being positioned as an AI worker. And now let's talk about the benchmarks, because this is where GLM 5.3 Flash starts looking crazy. On Terminal Bench 2.1, GLM 5.3. Flash scores 84.3, compared to 81.0 for GLM 5.2, 83.9 for DeepSeek, 85.0 for Claude Opus 4.8, 87.4 for GPT 5.6 Tera, and 85.8 for Gemini 3.7 Flash. So no, GLM 5.3 Flash isn't number one here. But think about what we're looking at. A model designed around efficiency is sitting only a few points away from some of the strongest models in the industry. And then things get even more interesting. On DeepSWE v1.1, GLM 5.3. Flash scores 63.4, while GLM 5.2 scores only 46.2. That's a massive jump. It even beats the 59.3 score shown for DeepSeek and the 58.0 score for GPT 5.6 Tera in this comparison. Only Claude Opus 4.8 at 69.6 and Gemini 3.7 Flash at 65.3 are ahead. And that's a huge signal for coding agents, because if your AI agent needs to understand a code base, modify files, run commands, debug problems, and continue working through multiple steps, coding intelligence becomes extremely important. Then there's NL2 repo, where GLM 5.3 Flash scores 56.3, showing another strong result in software engineering tasks. But the agentic benchmarks are where this model really starts to stand out. On Toolathlon verified, GLM 5.3. Flash scores 78.4, compared with 59.9 for GLM 5.2 and 76.2 for Claude Opus 4.8. Then look at AutomationBench. GLM 5.2 scores just 26.2. GLM 5.3. Flash jumps all the way to 48.8. That's almost double the previous score. Only Gemini 3.7 Flash is ahead in this chart with 52.3. And this is exactly the kind of benchmark that matters for agentic AI. Because the future isn't just going to be asking AI a question, it's going to be open these files, search the web, use this API, analyze the information, make the changes, check your work, and then continue. That's an agent, and GLM 5.3 Flash is clearly being built for that world. Then we have Agent's Last Exam, where GLM 5.3, Flash scores 26.3, putting it right around the same level as several frontier models. And on HLE with tools, it scores 55.3, again showing that the model can perform strongly when it's actually given tools to work with. But my favorite result might be GDPval-AA 2, GLM-5.3-. Flash scores a massive 1,773. For comparison, GLM-5.2 scores 1,504. DeepSeek scores 1,675. GPT scores 1,571. Claude scores 1,582. And Gemini scores 1,527. So in this comparison, GLM 5.3 Flash takes the top spot. And that's especially interesting because GDPval is designed around real-world professional tasks. So this isn't just about answering trivia questions. It's about models actually performing useful work. And then there's the vision side, GLM 5.3. Flash scores 62.4 on Office QA Pro, and an impressive 89.4 on Char Shiv, reasoning with tools. So the multimodal capability isn't just a checkbox on the specification sheet, it's showing up in the benchmarks too. And now here's another major advantage. The model weights are publicly available on Hugging Face. For local deployment, Z.ai says GLM 5.3. Flash currently supports inference frameworks including SGLang, VLLM, and Tensor RTLLM, with more support coming. And the model is released under the MIT license. That combination is pretty aggressive. A huge MOE model, only 18 billion active parameters, 1 million tokens of context, native multimodality, strong coding performance, strong agentic performance, public weights, local deployment, and an MIT license. Now add the Chinese hardware angle. GLM 5.3 Flash was previously previewed as Ox Alpha, and the model was presented as running entirely on Chinese AI chips. If that hardware story holds up at scale, then this becomes more than just a benchmark story. It becomes an infrastructure story. Because the bigger question is whether Chinese AI labs can continue pushing toward frontier-level AI while building around their own hardware ecosystem. And that could have consequences far beyond this one model. So is GLM 5.3 Flash the smartest AI model in the world? Not necessarily. The benchmarks clearly show that it wins some tests, loses others, and sits extremely close to the frontier on several of them. But I don't think raw benchmark leadership is the real point here. The real story is intelligence per dollar. Because if you're running an AI agent that needs to make hundreds or thousands of model calls, the cost of every single call matters. And if Z.ai can deliver near-frontier intelligence at dramatically lower cost, while also giving developers multimodality, long context, public weights, local deployment, and an open license, that could make GLM 5.3 Flash one of the most useful models for the next generation of AI agents. The future of AI might not be about finding one model that is simply the smartest. It might be about finding the model that gives you the most intelligence for every dollar you spend. And if GLM 5.3 Flash can actually deliver on that promise, Z.ai may have just built a model that's designed not just to compete with frontier AI, but to make frontier AI cheap enough to run everywhere.